Welcome to Just Breathe. That's all I ask, is that you give yourself permission to literally just breathe. Let everything else go on pause. When we prioritize our breath, it is a tangible practice of not only prioritizing our self-care, but it's also prioritizing our connection to the oneness that is all. So welcome to Just Breathe. I'm upside down today because my machine's battery is dead, and so it gives me an extra 6 inches. I didn't know if it was going to show upside down or not. It looks fine on this end. Anyway, it gives me an extra 6 inches if I turn it over and plug it in. So, sometimes we have to turn our life upside down to make it work. That's why I practice aerial yoga. And it's relevant even to the practice that I want to guide you through today for our Just Breathe. And for those of you who will stick around, in Coach's Chat, we're talking about loving kindness as taught from Bhante Sujata. And so the connection here is boundaries and getting familiar with where we have established boundaries well and where we've perhaps established boundaries not so well. So what does that have to do with flipping my camera upside down? Well, for those of you who are here live, can you suspend that awkwardness, that expectation that things are as we want them to be, and just listen if it hurts your eyes, right? Now, those of you who are watching the recording, I'll flip the video over so you won't have to do that. Or maybe I won't. Just kidding. Welcome to Just Breathe. Notice how it feels to land. Feel into your body and find the pause to just breathe. And that really is not just the only rule, the only requirement. It is the beginning of everything else, because with the breath, everything is possible. And through the breath, we choose to live. Notice the edges of your breath expansion. There's a hard boundary of the ribs. There's a subtle, soft boundary of the tissues of the lungs themselves and the muscle of the diaphragm. But there's also an energetic boundary that might be tied to your stories, that might be tied to your habits. In other words, if you have a habit of sitting collapsed, your diaphragm has to push against you to open. Right? Those habits have consequences, create boundaries that may not serve us. The best boundary is essentially, this is kind of quoted or remembered from Brene Brown's work, the best boundary are those that allow us to prioritize and practice self-love, even if it risks offending someone else. That doesn't mean that we do something to offend others and call it self-love or self-care. And that's kind of the crux of our lesson today. Self-care is a buzzword. But is your breathing a self-care practice? Is your exercising, your sleeping, your diet, your drinking, your whatever habits, are they an expression of self-care? Or are they a practice of justification of perhaps either selfishness or even doing the right things without the right intention? Because the intention that is is often missed when we propose and advocate for self-care is self-love. Self-care without self-love is exercise. Not that you can't have love in exercise. That's not what I'm saying. But self-care and exercise, or self-care and diet, or self-care and choosing healthy relationships, if they're not rooted in self-love, they will not serve to nurture us and to connect us. So now, notice your breath. What boundaries are you maintaining, consciously or unconsciously? Notice now. And then consider, is now a good time to stretch that boundary, to test, to tickle, to come up to the edge and see if this is a hard, fast structure or if there is wiggle room? Because it's that wiggle room that gives us room to grow. That's my new blessing. May you be well. The traffic outside as they speed past. So let's take this breath just 1% bigger, 1% deeper. And can you tickle the edge of your capacity and still feel safe as you return to your next breath? Does that expansion open up another layer of tickling a new edge? Or is that far enough? Only you can decide. But decide wisely. Decide with wisdom. And take 3 more of these edge exploring breaths. For me, this breath at the edge is about expanding so that I can receive more. But there's an equal component of the edge for going in. And I am fancy to say going in is the way out. The way out of suffering, but the way out of our ego and our self-delusion and into relationship with others. Into authentic union. So can you now, on the exhale perhaps, explore the edge, the boundary of going in? You can linger in that emptiness if that feels safe to do so, lingering perhaps even a little longer, evacuating a little more, activating some lift of the pelvic floor, some squeeze of the transverse abdominis to really help find that new edge, or not. And take that again 3 more times. The connection between self-care and self-love, the practice of compassion. The difference between our external boundaries and who we let in or who we reach out to. Mirror who we go into. How deep we allow ourselves to be seen by our own conscious awareness. It's okay if some days you're more focused in one area or the other. That's why we have that witness perspective to help us see things from that broader view, not the minute, minute by minute failure or even success. That was a great practice. I'm such a good yogi. Or, oh, that sucked. I'm such a bad yogi. those are in the moment. We gotta zoom out to see the beauty of that zooming in, to know the ebb and the flow, and to not just accept it all, but can we love it all? And in doing so, expand our tolerance, our capacity of our boundaries. So now, I want to switch our breath practice into alternate nostril breathing. And again, we're still tickling the edge. Whereas we were full and then empty, now let's tickle the edge of right and left. For me, Nadi Shodhana is in through the left and out through the right, and then in through the right nostril and out through the left nostril to make one round. You can do that with or without the mudra, classically Vishnu mudra, and we use the thumb and the finger to alternate. I prefer to rest my fingers on my forehead and use the leverage of my arms to keep a vertical spine and the cervical connection of the neck, right? And then, pressing on the right side gently, I breathe in through the left nostril. At the top of that breath, I close the left, open the right, and exhale out. Inhale, back through the right nostril. At the top, close, and then open the left and exhale out the left. That's one round. Take a few more just like this. In left. Out right. In right. Out left. So while we explore this right-left boundary and pass through the middle, some of you might have a different definition of the practice of alternate nostril breathing or Nadi Shodhana. That's okay. Can you wiggle through that boundary and try something different? It's just a practice of moving the air. So if we get too attached, we lose our connection with compassion. We get too rigid, we get too structured in our boundaries and expectations of what is, that we can't wiggle through to something a little different. It's the root of suffering. When our expectations are bigger or blinded to the capacity of ourselves and our lungs, or the capacity of the one that we love, who's failing us, or maybe just missing our expectations, so we can reframe that from love. Just like self-care is intended to be an expression of self-love, but without reframing from love, without a root in compassion and authenticity, it can actually do more harm. Inhale followed by exhale, this circle. When we test the limits, whether that's right or left or in and out, we can expand our capacity to breathe. But more importantly, we can expand our capacity to connect and to be. That's the yoga. Union within and union with all. As the breath exits out your left nostril, release this pranayama, this controlled breath practice, and notice, do you return to where you were, or are you aware? Can you feel how the boundary has been shifted because of that isolation, because of that practice and exploring that alternation perhaps between right and left? Now, boundaries do not always require effort. Sometimes they require allowing. And this brings us to sukha and sthira. And it's wisdom, it's tapas that helps us to discern the difference. So just breathe and hear these words from Lisa Lowitz. Sukha, meaning sweetness. Sthira, meaning effort. Steadiness and ease. 2 dimensions of an asana, like a tea bowl and tea. Without the tea, a bowl has no function. Without the bowl, the tea cannot find form. Holding steady, we pour ourselves into the world. Spirit pervades our lives as clay pervades the tea bowl. The one who meditates without the view is like a blind man wandering the plains. The nature of the mind is no different from the forms arising in it. So polish the cup. Be complete in filling, being filled. Be complete in filling. And yet, we are no less complete when we expand our capacity. We get a new understanding of whatever emotion or skill. We don't have to apologize for our lesser self. We're just becoming. That is the journey of our yoga practice. Thank you so much for breathing with me and exploring these ideas of boundaries, of capacity, of effort and ease, of just breathing. May you breathe deeply and move freely and labor lovingly and live vibrantly. Namaste.